Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you to the European Internet Forum for hosting this interesting event. I found the comments of Mr. Saliba, political comments, very interesting, and the very clear overview of the act by Mrs. Bernhardt equally interesting. So I will give you a few thoughts on this recently proposed regulation. It was a long-awaited instrument by many companies in Europe, and certainly media companies. And let me say first maybe a few words about Bertelsmann. So the pandemic was and still is a huge challenge for us. But despite the hurdles and big drop in advertising revenues, for instance, we managed to do what we do best, which is to reach our audience with the best possible content, be it news, books, music, magazines, or TV series. Actually, we learned two lessons from this crisis. First, it revealed the importance of trusted media, I think, to support citizens during the crisis. And the crisis has also been for us a fast forward button rather than a pause button. And we clearly accelerated our transformation from offline to online models. We have, for instance, developed online video offerings. We have invested in new advertising technologies. We have launched a music business model that is really fully adapted to the digital world. But often, to reach our readers or viewers, the only way is to use the existing big platforms. There are certainly very useful intermediaries that have developed innovative technologies and services that we can't match and that we all use. But there are also our competitors. And their role and position was strengthened during the crisis, which means that the dependency is increasing as well. So there is a need for a rebalancing act. And in that respect, the Digital Market Act is one, amongst others, tool to ensure that there is a level playing field. And I'm glad to see that not only in Europe, by the way, that's a global issue now. It's acknowledged that there's a number of systemic problems that needs to be addressed. And the key issue for our platforms is probably to take more responsibility, reflecting their reach and their influence on societies. That's the Digital Service Act component, and also the market power, which is the Digital Market Act component. The premise of the Act, I think, are that existing tools are not sufficient. And we agree with the big shift that the Commission is doing from I would say, towards prevention more than cure. And we think that the DMA can make a difference. I will not list the Article 5 and Article 6 obligations. You surely have read these 18 commandments. I see, by the way, that the Commission is a bit more exhaustive than GOT, but they're based on extensive experience of the Commission in various cases, and I think also the large consultation that took place last year. So I would like only to highlight some overarching principles which should support any such list of do's and don'ts now or in the future. So a principle of non-discrimination, a principle of real consumer choice, a principle of transparency, and in that respect, for instance, we were pleased to see rules on advertising transparency, both in the DSA and in the DMA, including on the distribution of the revenues and on audience measurement. And also a principle of guaranteed access to data related to the content that we produce and distribute. For media companies, really accessing their own data is really strategic to improve and adapt our services or content, but also to monetize them via personalized advertising. So to complete the positive aspect of the DMA, it seems that the Commission has sufficient power to enforce the rules, but it also assumes that it will have enough resources to do it, which is not a trivial question, I think. And all this being said, there's of course a number of questions or point of vigilance, and I will list some of them, and that will surely feed or debate this afternoon. So first, are we sure that the definition of gatekeepers and core platform services catch all what it needs to catch? It will, of course, depend on how people will consume media in the future. Difficult to guess. But we can think, for instance, at the development of smart speakers or voice search. Second, are we sure that the many procedural aspects for designating the gatekeepers and the possibility to contest this status will not unduly delay the implementation when time is really of the essence? The third question is probably how will, and that's a question that I asked to the Commission, how will Article 6 be applied concretely? What means to be further specified? I didn't find much in the recital on that, and I'm a bit afraid that this could be quite complex to handle and could lead to endless discussions. It should not certainly become a quasi-ex post control. The fourth question is, could we go a bit further on some rules based on the principles that I mentioned? 5, what will be the interaction between existing and future member state rules, which could be guided by other goals like media pluralism, for instance? And eventually, last question, could the resources of national authorities be injected in to some extent in the enforcement process, which not entirely rely on the Commission? I don't know whether I'm still online. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, Vincent.
Sorry, I don't see you anymore, but okay. It's time to conclude anyway, I guess. The Digital Market Act is a great initiative and a useful text. It's now up to the Parliament and the Council to improve it, as Mr. Saliba said, and they will surely do a good job at it. The Parliament's own initiative reports have indicated a good understanding of the matter and a high level of ambition, so we're definitely keen to engage with all the MEPs involved. And I would simply suggest to keep the following elements in mind. Time is of the essence. So the DMA is in a sense long overdue. It addressed very pressing issues. The second point is ex-ante rules are deemed to be clear and efficient way to deal with market inefficiency. So when the text will be final, it should be simple, efficient, and adapted to fast-moving markets and practices. And last but not least, beyond pure economic or technical consideration, one should not forget that one of the key questions is, how can we allow cultural and creative industries to compete fairly, which is a precondition to guarantee the production of rich and diverse content. So I think that the future of content creation in Europe is at stake here. Thank you for your attention.